Welcome. Welcome to another episode of Authentic Man Podcast. I'm your host, David Chambers. And I do these mini episodes. So if you listened to before, I just break down a little topic that I see in dating, relationship, intimacy, and I really just get into it a little bit to give you some quick tips, some quick help, quick insights. And today's no different. And it's really about how we try and hide parts of who we are when we're dating, or in a relationship as well. But when we're dating, we're trying to hide parts of who we are, and we think that this is how we meet the right person. We think this is how we get acceptance and love. And in fact, what often happens, and I'm not going to tell you what often happens, I'll tell you. What often happens is we hide who we are, which shows to ourselves that we don't accept ourselves, and we don't care about ourselves. And then we end up in a relationship with someone who has fallen in love with a different person. They fall in love with us, but at different, sides of us. And then we start to reveal these other sides of us. And then that person's a bit like, oh, I don't like those things. And then our relationship starts to get rocky, or we have to continue to hide who we are, which creates unhappiness. And I know this because this is a reasonably common thing that I've come across with men that I've worked with. We try and hide our needs, we try and hide our fears, we try and hide our past. We try and hide the things we're ashamed of. Ultimately, we try and hide anything that we deem painful or dysfunctional or makes us needy in any way, because we feel that, if we're needy, other people won't want us. Or we think if we're dysfunctional, other people won't want that sort of function in their life. And I always think as I was, writing this and writing some notes for this episode, I think of the men who are on death row. I don't know if you know the story, that, a lot of the men who are on death row, who have committed murders and all sorts of other crimes, they get loads of love letters. They get loads and loads of love letters, right? Women who professing their love, pen pals, and get to know them, blah, blah, blah. And, you might think, some of these guys are innocent and, remorseful of their crimes. But you think, people who have, committed a serious crime, as known as in, somewhat the public eye, that their dysfunction, their crime, their pain, the crime, their act would be repulsive to everybody. But yet people write to them to tell them how much they like them, how much they want to get to know them. And this is just a little insight into, if you're hiding maybe that you are a bit needy, or you have a bit of a father wound, you're looking for validation, or maybe you don't think your body's in great shape, or you have some emotional, I'll say grumpiness, because that's just me, emotional grumpiness or struggle to communicate, and you're hiding this because you think you'll be unloved. Imagine if you compare that to someone who's committed a crime and is on death row. Imagine the comparison. Your issue really, in the grand scheme of life, is not major. I know to you, from a relativity point of view, it's still a major issue. But it's these things, these blots on our paper, these things that make us less perfect, are the things that really connect us. These are the things that make us interesting. These wounds, these dysfunctions can also be our gold. For me, I have a podcast, run coaching and events and so forth. And it's all out my own pain, my own discomfort, my own struggle with dating, my own struggle with communicating and being in tune with my emotions, or, especially the way I was in my 20s, where I was just lots of casual relationships and didn't believe that relationships could work and could function, and I could be happy in them and I could be connected. I had to do all this learning, and now this is what I teach to people, right? So we always look at our dysfunction and the things that we see as quote unquote bad about us. I think that no one will love us for it, and they have no use, and we need to hide them and they're bad. But in fact, sometimes when we start to do the work to heal those, to connect with those, to bring light to those and understand those parts of us feel loved and can be seen by others. So the question I guess to ask is do you want to, bring these to light? Do you want to start moving through these relationship issues? You want to start moving through these wounds, these hurts, these pains, these past that we keep holding on to? Because ultimately, when we hide them from people, we're operating from this idea that we need to be perfect, or there's a right way for us to be for other people to love us, as if we can read other people's minds. And I know what happens is we hear other people say little comments, and then we make those mean something that makes it mean to us that we have to hide who we are. But again, that perception, that meaning is given by us, not by them. Ultimately, it's like you don't need to be perfect. No one's expecting you to be perfect, and no one wants you to be perfect. Because ultimately, you don't know what other people desire and want completely from you. And also, you don't know, even if they don't want something, they say in words that they don't want this sort of thing, when presented to them in the little bow that is you, they may still be open to it because they want you. And I say this to clients, it's like, how long are you going to hide this thing in a relationship? If you meet, if you do get past the first hurdles of dating and hiding certain aspects of who you are, and it's not like hiding, sometimes it's not major things, sometimes it's just hiding that, you struggle to talk about anger, or you might hide the certain aspects of, things you picked up from your parents or your family, or if we look at, some of the mother wounds or father wounds, or we're trying to hide, I'm trying to think of something that I would hide. You might even hide your sexual preferences, for instance, there's certain sexual desires. How long are you going to hide them for? How long are you going to hide these things? Are you going to hide them indefinitely? Or are you going to find the perfect moment when they're acceptable to bring in? And I'm not saying you should put this on the table on the first date. So some things, there's a gradual process of opening up and bringing vulnerability to a situation and to a relationship and dating. But, I know people have hid these things for years, 10 years, 15 years, hiding their desire for BDSM from their partners. This is where we get leaky with our sexual energy, for instance, where it's like maybe we would really love to try BDSM, but we can't admit that to a partner, so we watch BDSM porn all the time. And it starts to affect our relationship, it starts to affect our sex lives. Instead of just saying to our partner, I'd like to try some of this stuff, maybe we can start here. Because we carry so much shame about that thing. Hiding who you are is not a great strategy for dating, because it will just leave you hurt and upset. And those parts of you, especially if they're personality parts, they will jump out, they will leak out at times in a relationship, and they will create dysfunction and surprise. It's a bit like how shadow works. The shadow will leap into parts of your life. So it's this idea that, we think we're going to be rejected if we show these parts. And rejection's a complex issue, because sometimes we're not even being rejected because we don't really show who we are to be rejected, or sometimes we just assume we're going to be rejected, and then when it does, we speak about something we perceive rejection. So I say, be bold, bring all of you, because if you want to meet someone who is open, loving and accepting, right, which a lot of us do, I know this from the men I work with, it's like, you need to be open and accepting of you, and bring that open and accepting you to the table. So I think that's enough for this week in this episode. It's a little mini episode talking about, how we hide things. If you enjoyed this episode, if you got something from it, please reach out, let me know. It's always nice to hear what people learn, insights, or how they're able to incorporate the learnings into an action, to change. Maybe you just start having conversations differently on dating apps. Maybe you change your profile on your dating app a little bit. But I would love to hear how that impacts you, how that helps you. Because this is why I do this work. It warms my heart, it really does. And if this, revealing yourself and being more vulnerable of who you are is something that's interesting to you, I'm running an 8-week men's program between June and July. For men, and it's going to be, we're going to talk a lot about vulnerability and confidence. It's around, the whole thing's around masculinity, relationships and intimacy. So there's going to be a lot of work around allowing us to get in touch with these parts of ourselves, showing it to other people in our lives, other men, and just getting past these fears, getting past these worries in the space of a container of men who are committed to doing so, that are open-hearted, vulnerable, courageous, that allows us to feed off each other, and I'm really looking forward to that. So if that's something that interests you, hit me up on Instagram @theauthenticman_, or you can get me on my email, which is hello@theauthenticman.net. Until next time, ciao.